everybody? Welcome back to episode 5 of Thought You Should Know. Sorry it took a little while to get an appraiser on board. Every time they see a realtor call, they don't want to return your call. But luckily we got Creedance here today. Thank you for coming out, man. We're going to jump into appraisals. Creedance, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Creedance. I'm an appraiser. I've been an appraiser for about a year now, so not wise enough to not answer your phone call. But here I am, so I'm excited to get it started.
Glad to have you, brother.
Absolutely.
Right on. What is a home appraisal and why do you need one?
So a home appraisal is just going to be what you need to make sure that the value of your home is actually what the value of your home is. Especially last year, there were a lot of prices that were kind of all over the place. People asking like 40, 60K over asking. Mm-hmm. So this is a way for the price to actually be what it is in the market.
Okay, sounds good. With that being said, like last year, the craziness, all that, 40 to 60, even 100 grand over asking price. If the home doesn't appraise for that, what's your options?
So really that comes down to the contract, mm-hmm. like to buy and sell. So if you have, there's certain verbiage that you can put in there where you can have an appraisal gap. So if you're asking, or the offer is for 600K, mm-hmm. right? And then it appraises for 550, mm-hmm. then there's, with the appraisal gap, it'll jump up to that 600. Mm-hmm. So it's a way to make your offer a little stronger, mm-hmm. but if it comes in lower, then that's another piece of negotiation. So you can either ask for that back from the seller, maybe get some points off your loan, which is always nice, or you could also negotiate for that lower price on the home.
Perfect.
Yeah. Definitely
all negotiable. I know appraisal gaps aren't really common right now, market depending. There are still some neighborhoods that are seeing, multiple offer situations, and that's when that appraisal gap is going to come into play. Basically what that is that's cash to make up that difference to get you in that house. How does a home appraisal work?
So you're going to call your lender, and then your lender's going to set all of that up. There's kind of two different reasons that you get a home appraisal. It's either for the purchase or for a refinance. Okay, so you're gonna have somebody like me come out, and now we've got iPads and lasers and stuff. So we're gonna measure the property, take some pictures on the outside, and then we'll come inside, take some more pictures, and place the floor plan and everything down. And then we'll take that back to the office. We'll get together a work file that'll have like everything on the property itself, and then you also have all of the comps that we normally have to pick ourselves. I know some agents like to try to be helpful and give you their comps, but they want the house to appraise higher. So oftentimes those are a little skewed.
Yeah, I could understand that and respect it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I can't choose my appraiser.
Not in a purchase or a refinance. So there is kind of a third reason to get an appraisal, and that's if you want a pre-listing appraisal. Okay. That's for if maybe you're a newer agent, or maybe the market's crazy like it was last year, and you're like, man, I really think it's worth 500, but we've got comps that are like 400 and 600, and I don't really know where to put it.
Right.
Then you can get an appraisal, and that's a private use appraisal. Okay. And you can choose your appraiser for that.
Okay, that makes sense. Typically, how long does the appraisal process take, and how much does it cost?
Okay, so I'll tackle the cost first. That is going to be dependent on the size of the home and also the complexity of the home. So I've had appraisals where the front half of the house is an actual house, and then the back half of the house is like a recording studio or something. Now, that's a very specific case. You have to figure out what to compare that to, and that's going to take a little more time than if it was just a normal residential property.
That makes sense.
So it'll normally start out at about $550, and then I've seen them go all the way up to $750, but that $750 mark is going to be like a huge mansion in the mountains or something with not a whole lot around it or something like that.
Right. So we kind of touched a little bit on appraisals coming in low. With the craziness of the market, have you seen appraisals, have they been true market value like recently? Or is there some kind of catch-up that needs to happen on that end?
Gotcha. So I think the market was crazy last year because we were playing that catch-up with COVID and everything, I feel like there were a lot of people that were like, okay, we'll buy or we'll sell once this is all over. And then it was all more or less over depending on where you were, right? So all of the prices kind of jumped up and then you got all of that appreciation all at once. And that was a little tough for appraisers, but luckily that was more so in my training days, so I didn't have to put my name on any of that.
There you go.
But it was great training.
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely.
Like to be able to handle kind of the biggest curveball you can be thrown as an appraiser. So the market right now has stabilized a little bit. A lot of people have said things like it's starting to come down or they're fearful of a crash or a recession or whatever. But all of that, I think that it's just stabilizing.
Oh, for sure.
It's definitely made appraisals recently a lot easier.
Yep. So in a situation where an appraisal does come in lower, what options as a homeowner do you have? Like, can you dispute that or do anything to try and bring that value up?
You can absolutely dispute it. Part of being an appraiser is also checking other appraisers' work. So every once in a while, because it doesn't happen very often, you'll have a appraisal where you just check another appraiser's work. So you'll go out and basically do the appraisal, and if it comes back that it's the same price, then you're kind of screwed. That's just what your house is worth.
Right.
But I mean, everybody's a little different, so that goes for appraisers too.
Makes sense. Yeah, I know there's some human error sometimes. Maybe something was overlooked. I mean, if you're not happy with your appraised value, I would probably recommend doing a dispute and just getting a second opinion. But it's not necessary. There are workarounds to still get the deal done.
Yeah. The only thing I would say about that is oftentimes in the deal you'll have an appraisal deadline. So you just want to make sure that you get that taken care of before then, or you get an extension or something.
Definitely. Can a homeowner make improvements that'll help their appraised value?
Absolutely. So we use a C scale. So C1 through 6. C1 is going to be like new build. Nobody's ever lived in it. Really nothing gets a C1 unless it is a new build. And then you have C2s, which are flips or something that was a new build and was lived in for maybe a year or 2 years.
Okay.
And then you go to C3, which is something that has been updated in the last 15 years and really taken care of well. And then C4 is it either hasn't been updated in the last 15 years or it hasn't been taken care of very well. So like maybe you were having parties and got a little too crazy, started breaking walls and stuff.
Right, makes sense.
And then C5 and C6, you start to get into like the house is burnt down or they've got like 6 different types of flooring because they kept falling through, like stuff like that.
Okay.
So when you're trying to do stuff that's going to get you in those different categories, you're either going to want to take really good care of everything that you currently have, or I would take care of your kitchens, your bathrooms, your roof, your utilities, like your water heater and your furnace, stuff like that.
Big ticket items for sure.
Exactly. And then we just compare your property to other properties. Okay. So something you can do to see what you want your house to appraise for is if you look on Zillow, even though I'm not a huge fan of Zillow, you can see what other properties have that are your competition, and you can kind of figure out what you should do.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just small renovations around the home, even do-it-yourself DIY projects can help boost, your property's value.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Homeowner decides they want to sell their house. We get under contract. Is there anything that they can do to prepare themselves for the appraisal process to kind of ensure the best possible outcome?
Yes, you're going to want to clean your house. Although we also appraise stuff where I've had like a path to walk through before. So part of the appraisal is that person isn't going to live there anymore.
Right.
So you kind of want to clean your house because like subliminal, it's going to help you out, but part of being an appraiser is also taking out all of the stuff that you've done to like decorate it really nice or any of that, and just get it down to the bones, because at the end of the day we're appraising the house with nobody in it.
Right. Aside from that, is there anything that a homeowner can do to help, maybe elevate that value a little bit? Like maybe cleaning, get the furnace serviced or cleaning out ducts or anything like that. Does that have any input?
The last time that your utilities were serviced does help you out.
Okay.
It's not anything crazy. You might get like another $1,000, $2,000 out of that. But I mean, if you're trying to squeeze every penny out of your equity, then it's not a bad idea.
Okay.
Really what you look at as far as utilities is the life of the water heater. Normally it's 20 years for a water heater, and if it's anywhere past that, then we just write it off as this is something that's going to need to be replaced soon.
Makes sense. Getting back to the disputing if you're not happy with the appraised value, how does one go about doing that?
So that's something that you would contact your lender about, and they would, if you went through an appraisal company that has multiple appraisers, then they will try to get something along the same lines. Okay. But what it used to be was appraisers were kind of their own thing. So you wouldn't really have a company of a bunch of appraisers. So you'd have a totally different appraiser come out.
Okay. And they just kind of do their own thing, and then you compare the two.
Yep. So it'd be a retroactive appraisal because the market changes every day, right?
Right. Definitely.
So then you're just using comps from back then, and you're using time of sale and everything from that date that you went out to the property.
Okay, that makes sense. So the process isn't too extensive. Basically, you're just getting another appraisal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Perfect. So what are some of the common misconceptions about home appraisals?
That it matters what your house looks like the decorations and stuff like that. It does matter what your house looks like, but I've had people that are like frantically cleaning stuff while I'm at the house, and I love it because it's a little bit of a power trip. Right. But other than that, it really doesn't matter too much. They're gonna look at what kind of countertops do you have, not did
dirty
your
granite
3-year-old color on them. Right.
Makes sense.
So that's one thing, and then the appraiser is gonna want to know everything that you've done to the house and how recently you've done it. We use like year time frames. So if it's less than a year, 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, kind of going in fives like that.
Perfect.
So when you're trying to think of like, oh man, when did we do the cabinets? Last year, perfectly acceptable answer.
How does the appraisal process differ from different types of properties? So like you got your single family home, you got your condos, your townhomes, your multifamily. How do they differ?
Yeah, so you're gonna have like single family detached homes, right? We recently switched over to the ANSI standard, which has a bunch of little pieces to it, but the main point that you need to know is that we measure from the outside walls. What that means is instead of how some appraisers used to do it versus how other appraisers used to do it, now we're all doing it the same way when we're measuring the property and what we're looking for. Okay. So that's good news. Yep. Actually. Also, if you are an agent and you're looking to get a pre-listing appraisal done, then that's great. You figure out the price of your home, but you also figure out the actual square footage of your home. A lot of times, if you had an appraiser that had the listing measurement done before and they measured from the inside, and then you have it done now, you'll see that you gain anywhere from like 200 to 500 square feet, depending on how big the property is.
That makes sense.
And that could be tens of thousands of dollars in your client's pocket.
Oh, so definitely.
If you don't know how to measure a property, just getting a measurement done alone might be a good idea.
And is that an option that homeowners can do? They just reach out to an appraiser and say, hey, we want a pre-listing measurement?
A pre-listing measurement is absolutely something you can do. That is going to fall under one of the things that you can get done as a private use appraisal. So you wouldn't have to talk to a lender.
Perfect.
You just have to talk to an appraiser.
Good to know. So we kind of talked about a little bit of the different types of properties. What about the different types of loans? Because I know lots of sellers are like, no, let's not include VA when we're accepting offers, or FHA even. Let's just do cash and conventional. You mind touching on the main differences between those?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they're that different. Can you give some insight?
They're really not that different if you have an average run-of-the-mill house.
Mm-hmm.
That is good advice if your house falls into that like C5, C6 kind of category.
Mm-hmm.
Conventional versus FHA versus VA, it kind of goes in ascending order of basically how thorough you have to be as an appraiser.
Okay.
Which is good and bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
For conventional loans, as far as the appraisal process goes, you don't have to get into the crawl space or into the attic.
Okay.
But if you have a VA loan, you have to get into the attic, take pictures of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really what it is for conventional, it's just whatever the house is, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. We're going to run with it. If it's FHA, then it's more so, you're going to go a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make sure that it's safer than something else that you would buy. Mm-hmm. And then VA, it's going to be like really in depth, make sure that it's something that a veteran would be worthy of,
Definitely. So you touched a little bit on earlier some of the new technology that you guys use. How has technology changed your appraisals?
It's funny that you asked that, because when I had my training last year, I went to Nashville, Tennessee.
Nice.
And had maybe a little too much of a good time.
Oh, for sure.
But they taught us how to do everything the old school way. Kind of like when you were in school, when your teacher would be like, hey, this is the long way to do division, and here's a calculator.
Okay.
So we had reels, and we wrote down like distances and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Now we have iPads, which are great.
Game changer.
Absolutely. You can also do it on your phone. Okay. For me personally, I feel like it takes away from my credibility to be like, hey, I'm just going to take some pictures of your house with my phone.
Yeah.
So I got the iPad, and then we also have lasers now. So I should have brought it. That would have been great.
Sorry.
But no, you're good. But you basically just stand on the corner of the house and try to shoot like a gutter or something on the other side, and then you'll grab from the gutter to the end of the wall. Boom. And you're good to go.
Awesome. So no more graph paper.
No.
With that being said, what are some of the biggest challenges you as appraisers feel now in today's new market?
So the challenges that we're facing now are more so for those very specific properties. Mm-hmm. So if you've got something that's huge in the mountains, or that recording studio in your back office that I was talking about, honestly, it's gotten a lot easier since last year when Mark was crazy. So we're doing a lot better now. Nice. Honestly.
Getting close to the end here, just kind of want to wrap up a little bit. What advice would you give to homeowners that are getting ready to sell their house or getting into a position where they're going to need an appraisal?
If you are selling your house and you need an appraisal, one, pick up the backyard. If you have dogs and I step in a landmine, that's a bad day for me. That's not going to affect the value of your home, but it will affect my day.
That's fair.
So other than that, it is a good idea to clean, make sure that everything's presentable. If you have kids or a big family or a lot of people in the house and you guys aren't going to congregate in the same spot, I would say just to leave. Okay. It'll make it go a little quicker, and the sooner that I can do the inspection piece, the sooner I can get to writing the report.
Makes sense.
And then rack your brain and really think about everything that you've done to the property. Because, I don't know, you guys did this fireplace, but if you also did new lights or the cabinets or something, this is kind of a newer build, but anything that you have done to the property in the last couple of years, you want to make sure that you have that written down somewhere so that you don't forget, because I've definitely had people where I show up and we start talking about it and then your mind just goes blank. So write that stuff down.
Definitely. And that goes for anything as little as cosmetic to appliances to full remodels, correct?
Yes, I would try to stick to anything over $500. Okay. So if you, I've had this happen too, if you replaced a ceiling fan with this really cool like helicopter styled thing, and it was like $20 at your craft store, then that's not going to affect the value too much, and we're not really going to take that into account. Same deal with the like 30 extra square feet for a broom closet.
Makes sense.
It's just little stuff that isn't going to add up, we won't take into account. But as far as light fixtures go, if you're like, hey, we replaced all of the light fixtures, so now we have canned recessed lighting and we've got updated this and that, then that's something that we would take into account.
Cool. That's good to know. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Went over, just about everything we can about appraisals. If you have any further questions or comments, Creedance's information is going to be in the description of the video. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see you next time.